Hey guys, this is Darth Kilhoun. Welcome back to my Sith Empire series. Last time we discussed my organization of my Imperial Army, and I did say I was going to discuss the Imperial Navy next, but I thought about it, and every Imperial Navy in Star Wars requires air wings, or space wings. I've kinda heard it called both in universe. The key military asset oftentimes in the Star Wars universe makes or breaks every unit of the enemy. These are the Starfighter wings that are so prevalent in almost all Star Wars media. Very rarely do you not see a battle without one. Disclaimer though, like in the Imperial Army video, I personally love many of the designs and aspects of the Starfighter fleets of the Star Wars universe, but I am overly critical of the actual practicality of most of these aircraft. Most of them are bulky, slow, and avoid all conventional fighter combat. Of course, there are in-universe explanations, I know, but frankly I prefer my own freedom in designing my military within one of my favorite universes. Now let's get into this. The Air Corps. The most effective form of battlefield support, crucial to any victory in any war. The skies oftentimes dictate the outcome of entire wars. From the battles over the Death Star to the invasion of Iraq, air power has been the deciding factor in all conflicts. Armies numbering in the millions can become useless by 100 joint strike fighters in the modern battlefield. Air power has been used to destroy supply lines, columns of troops, industry, infrastructure, to perform reconnaissance, and so many more crucial roles, that within one any military is screwed unless it's pre-World War I militaries. The most crucial part of any Air Force in the Star Wars universe is the fighter. From the TIE Fighter to the X-Wing, they serve the largest swath of air wings in universe, whether they are in space or atmosphere. Going back to the Sith Empire of Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO RPG, they have a very cool design from the Sith design fighters, the Mark VI Supremacy class Starfighter. Looking at the design, the cockpit is small like the TIE Fighter, but with four blade-like wings that allows for a small profile target for the enemy to target, making you agile and quick. But like in all Star Wars fighters, it lacks one crucial aspect: aerodynamic agility. Not getting into specifics, but it can only fly at roughly half the speed of an F-35 fighter used by the United States and its allies in their air forces. The X-Wing, for example, in altitude flight, can only travel at 1,050 kilometers per hour or 652 miles per hour. In comparison, the F-35 can travel at 1,931 kilometers per hour or 1,200 miles per hour, considerably slower. That would cause them unnecessary casualties in any dogfight. For this, I would use a starfighter similar in design to the American F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, currently being incorporated into the U.S. Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, with possibilities for the Army, but of course it's the Army, so they're probably not going to do it. It's small, aerodynamic, and very tactical. It would be meant for both atmospheric and space combat. It would be able to outpace any competitor. My only change would be I would put a blaster cannon inside the wing for dogfighting and pack it full of anti-fighter missiles, as its role would be air and space supremacy fighters, along with being escorts for larger aircraft. I would also install a Class 1 hyperdrive so it could operate away from the mothership or planet. Next on the list is one of the vital factors of how I would conduct war. My space blitzkrieg requires light support aircraft to strike at enemy formations with surgical precision. For this role, no power in Star Wars has truly ever had a close air support spacecraft or aircraft, besides their oversized gunships, like the LAAT. So for this role, I would have to choose the A-10 Warthog used by the U.S. Air Force, and I believe the US Navy and maybe the US Marine Corps. I'm not 100% sure. Because, well, it can decimate any army whether either driving to the front or on the front lines, striking fear into the hearts of the enemies of the United States for 40 years, simply refitting the aircraft with a rotating heavy blaster cannon, life support, and a Class 1 hyperdrive along with anti-ground missiles for ground combat and ion or anti-armor missiles for space combat to take on light frigates to capital ships. They would be designed for speed to outrun enemy fighters, but would probably fly with an escort of fighters for safety. On to the next one would be one of the few in-universe crafts I would keep around to use by my military. This starship or starfighter, it's debatable. This would be the massive Fury class Interceptor, although Interceptor is hardly even close to an actual type of ship. It is. Massive starship is 3 times the size of the Millennium Falcon. The size makes it more like a corvette than any other class of vessel, but it tends to possess far superior agility, speed, and firepower. The Sith Empire's Fury class Interceptor is a personal vessel for many Sith Lords. It possesses 40 missiles, double twin laser cannons, and stands toe-to-toe with light fighters in space combat. I personally love this vessel and think it would be great for patrolling areas of space where a capital ship would be useless. Recon missions into possible hostile space, blockade running to insert special forces, and making a variant of transport entire companies of infantry into combat zones for quick deployments in a timely manner. Also, I would still use it as a personal yacht for Sith Lords and high-ranking officers, but that would be for the luxury design variant as seen in the Star Wars MMORPG, Star Wars Old Republic. Lastly would be my bombers. Due to my doctrine, dedicated bombers are more rarely used. They would be put on a secondary role as oftentimes. My only use of a bomber would be to pummel enemy fortifications, industry, and hard targets, which is why I wouldn't use a strategic bomber that is oftentimes cumbersome and overly large and slow. Mine would be the smaller bomber type, otherwise known as the tactical bomber. My tactical bomber would follow a similar design to the B-1 used by the US Air Force. Same as the other aircraft, I would fit them with a Class 1 hyperdrive to conduct long-range operations. The Imperial Army would use them more than the Imperial Navy, with the Navy only using bombers for very specific operations, but absolutely wouldn't be used in space combat, as they are just flying targets, and I wouldn't want to waste any aircraft to the bombers and their escorts when they can be used far more effectively and usefully. My Air Force wouldn't be an independent branch of the military, as they are in most nations across the world. Instead, my armed forces would operate like a pre-World War II organization, where the Air Forces would be simply wings within the Navy and Army for simplicity's sakes. They would be trained by the Navy and Army and serve for either branch. All pilots would be officers as in our world and held to the highest standards compared only to the infantry. This would create an elite air corps directly incorporated into the two branches for ideal performance in a war zone. Sorry to cut it short today, guys, but that is all for today. Thank you all for watching. Please hit that like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to keep up to date with your favorite Sith Lord. Have a good day, guys.